Well, there's about 300 to 350 students involved, and Montgomery Academy held a meeting for all the schools around Montgomery to come to see if you wanted to present the program to your school. And Sister Rose, our principal, and Miss Grissett, our student council advisor, and I, we decided that the school would like it because it would be involving the whole school. And we think we'll have a pretty good turnout.
All right. Exactly what is a readathon and how does it work?
Okay, it's like the walkathon. You read so many books, and you have a sponsor, say they sponsor you 5 or 10 cents for every book you read, and you read as many books you can between November 1st and December 8th. And then you go back afterwards and you collect the money and you send it into multiple sclerosis.
Now, you said earlier that there were possibly 2 advantages for a student here to be involved in this project.
Well, it raises money for multiple sclerosis, and the students involved will read and they'll want to keep on reading, and it raises their reading level.
What grades are we talking about?
The 1st through 8th grades. That's the students we have involved.
All right. You say there were sponsors for the readers. Mm-hmm. Now, how is the money raised? Do you pay 10 cents per book, $1 per book, $100 per book? How does that work?
Well, you go to like your friends or neighbors or teachers, and just however much that person wants to sponsor you for that day, or whoever you are.
Start November 1st.
This is West Montgomery. This part of town is just south of Maxwell Air Force Base. This part of our city is dotted with rail yards, small industries, junk yards, and auto parts shops. Many of the small private homes are decaying. A number of residential areas out here have been torn down over the last decade. Much of this area is covered with places where a human body can be concealed. According to investigators, apparently the place is popular with those who want to commit a murder or someone who wants to get rid of a body. In the 6-year period beginning in 1972, several homicide victims have been discovered out here. In March of 1972, the body of a young white man, Luke Rich, was discovered under the Day Street Railroad Viaduct. Police still have not been able to solve his murder. They believe he had organized crime ties, and they are not saying why they think so. Several young women have been found dead out here. Several of them had been shot in the back of the head by small caliber pistols, and according to police, quote, execution style. One young man was found out here. He had been injected with battery acid, according to police. Some of those think he had organized crime ties. And then, several weeks ago, young Catherine Smith's body was found out here. She had been shot in the back of the head 3 times with a small caliber pistol. And then, yesterday morning, Deputy Sheriff for Montgomery County, Jerome Smith, was found dead out here in the field. He had been shot 3 times with a small caliber pistol. Investigators think he also was involved with some kind of organized criminal effort. They are not saying why they think so. We did learn today, however, that police think Catherine Smith's death and Deputy Sheriff Smith's death may be related. Once again, they would not tell us why they think so. To the average citizen of Montgomery, this is a desolate, forbidden place at night. But Montgomery police investigators are worried because they say apparently someone finds it a very popular dumping ground for the victims of homicide. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News in West Montgomery.
Supreme Court of Alabama is now in session.
Ms. Centel, you call the case.
Case number 2515, ex parte Kenneth Hammond. Petition for writ of certiorari to the Court of Criminal Appeals, Reed Kenneth Hammond versus State. Honorable John W. Kelly III and Honorable Loma B. Beatty for the petitioner Kenneth Hammond. Mr. Kelly.
Well, this is the first time in a real long time, the first time I can remember that when we will have a credit on our bills as far as the fuel is concerned rather than an additional charge. Due to Farley being on the line, the nuclear plant in Dothan, and to some other factors that have happened around the state, most of the generating plants have been online. Less outages. We're going to see a minus on our bills this month rather than a plus for the fuel adjustment.
Do you see this as perhaps a trend for the future months?
Yes, I really do. I think that this is only the beginning, and I think it's something that we've all been waiting for. So I expect the December rate to even be lower than the November.
What about next summer with Farley being on the line? Now this summer we experienced very high rates. Do you think that because of Farley being on the line that they may be lower next summer?
It will certainly be a great help, and I would say that they would be lower than they were this summer. If you recall this summer when we were in such a bind and power had to be bought from out of state so much, this was the reason why the cost in the fuel adjustment part of the bill was pushed up. And if Farley continues to operate, and it looks at this point as if it will, then I think that you will see lower rates next summer.
Mines at the University of Alabama. I understand maybe the only school of mines in existence to the extent of which we are speaking was the University. And in view of the fact that we in this nation and throughout many parts of the Western world suffer energy shortages and there's an energy crisis, we feel that this new program and new school and its revitalization is going to aid not only this state but also the nation in the matter of research and development in the fields of energy. You know, Alabama has many valuable energy sources such as coal, oil, and gas. And recently the Congress passed an act in which there are going to be 10 university-type institutions of this sort, if that's the right word. And Alabama has written, I have written, Dr. Schlesinger, asking that the state of Alabama be considered and be one of the sites of one of these institutions.
In the country with the wide range of programs necessary for such comprehensive research. This effort, I think, comes at a very critical time for Alabama. We do have, as the governor said, a fair amount of natural energy in the state, coal, oil, gas. But they are perishable resources. And once we dig the coal out of the ground, we can't put it back in. Once we pump the oil and gas out, we can't pump it back in. Thus, the decisions that we're going to make in Alabama now to develop these resources are going to be binding, not just on our generation, but on generations of Alabamians to come. The extent of our mineral wealth is substantial. Our best figures show that Alabama is approaching $1 billion a year in mineral production. We have reserves of 35 billion tons of coal, 53 million barrels of gas, and over 700 billion cubic feet of natural gas. And those are conservative estimates, by the way. We're already employing some 12,000 people in coal mining alone and producing some 20 million tons a year, with that output increasing yearly.
Well, I think your assumption is probably correct, that we will see in the foreseeable future some plan for national health insurance coverage. And as far as the board is concerned, we have received invitations within the last month to appear before a regional meeting, which was held yesterday in Birmingham, to make our position known. And without being an advocate one way or the other, that we have made the board's position known as being insistent that if there is such a plan, that provision for coverage for mental health services be included in that plan.
Has been added as paragraph 3B12. In section 5, the words "and accompanying data" have been added to reflect the fact that accompanying material proposed by the staff to address basic construction, haul roads, and engineer certification, as was added to address the problem of haul roads, and it refers to the consultants that's come to utilize in reviewing pollution prevention plans.
The State Health Department is vitally concerned that the quality of the water in these reservoirs be adequately protected so that a high-quality potable water may be provided to these cities that have developed such reservoirs. We therefore strongly endorse in principle the petition of the citizens of Tuscaloosa County that the Water Improvement Commission amend its surface mining regulations to provide for increased protection of the streams flowing into public water supply lakes throughout the state to ensure that all reasonable controls be instituted to maintain the present high-quality potable water which is available to these municipalities as a result of their investment of public funds for the provision of an adequate public water supply.
Under Floridian social criteria. The item population served in your handout shows the environmental criteria. Because of the Floridian good, for example, the Chamber.
I want to make this observation about the business practices that seem to be employed or not employed by Amtrak in the service in Alabama. Based on information supplied to me, it is my judgment that Amtrak officials have not exerted what I would call the usual business practices and efforts to ensure the best possible return on this investment. Now, for instance, I am told that there has been and is no advertising of your services in Alabama. Now, perhaps you have a reason for that. I know if I were in business, and I am in the dry goods business, in addition to being an attorney, if I didn't advertise and didn't promote my product, then I dare say that I could not expect to have the return on that investment that would come if I did in fact advertise and had something to offer. I am further told that the equipment, until recent weeks, has not been anywhere near first-rate equipment. I'm told further that there have been breakdowns on this line that have taken sometimes literally days to repair, if in fact they were repaired before the train was put back on the line. Now, I sense from others who come before me that perhaps you know about some of these things already, because there are too many folks in this room that know about them, and I thought I'd found out something new, but apparently I have not. It is my understanding that the schedule of the passenger trains were changed so that a person who boards in Alabama cannot possibly make a connection to the Midwest through Chicago to go to parts further west without requiring the rental of other accommodations for at least one night overstay. Whereas before these changes were made, you could go to Chicago, you could have a reasonable period of wait, and you could board additional passenger train service to go to other parts west. Now, this may be true eastbound as well. Now, I'm further told that you have no clerk on duty here in Montgomery on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays during the daylight hours.
I think it's real secure.
In what ways?
Well, as far as hijacking and things like this go.
How would you prevent, say, a hijacking such as one that occurred today?
Well, if he comes through here, we're going to get him as he comes through this checkpoint.
But how are you going to manage to do that?
Well, when he goes through this X-ray machine here, it'll set him off. If he's carrying anything in his bags, the Pinkerton security people will spot it on X-ray. And if he goes through our metal detector, then we'll get him as he goes the other side.
Say if this person walks up before he goes through the metal detector and he has a gun, what can you do to prevent something like that from happening?
Well, we'll just have to take our chances on that one.
Do you think it'll ever get to a time when we'll need armed guards standing by each gate to prevent something like what happened today?
No, I don't think it'll ever reach that point. For the last 5 years, I think the security program has been most successful throughout the United States. When you have someone who is going to storm a security checkpoint like this guy did, there's not much anybody can do.
Airport security has been around for more than 5 years now, and in light of today's activities, it's apparent it'll be around for many years to come. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News at Danley Field.
The November energy adjustment means that Alabama Power Company customers will receive 15 cents per 1,000 kilowatt hours in the November billing. Next month's adjustment is $2.47 below that of October. Reggie Oliver, utility analyst for the Public Service Commission, works on the energy adjustment formula that affect the power bills. Why the minus factor next month?
Well, we've had a lot of good factors that have come together all at one time. The Farley nuclear plant in Dothan is coming on the line. We'll be generating a lot of cheap energy. At the same time, there's been increased rainfall. We're moving into the rainy season, which is free power. When you add these two together, it decreases the need to go outside of the state and purchase energy. We can generate our own a lot cheaper than we can buy it.
Right now, we had a little vibration in the turbine, and we're inspecting that. All test that's required by the NRC. There is one other test that has yet to be run. It's what we refer to as the 100-hour acceptance test at 100% reactor power. The unit is off the line right now. We had a little vibration in the turbine, and we're inspecting that. But
We do expect to complete the 100-hour test sometime in November.
I would think that, I would think that we should complete the 100-hour acceptance test in November.
Looking at the different units that you have, did you as you know, a
Or
couple of times you've had
September.
the different units.
I would think that with what we're doing now, that we could overcome any deficiency that we did experience last winter due to freeze up on our control line.
Customarily, the worry about reserves has been pointed toward the summer in our part of the world, but there was no winter anywhere like last winter, and this is just to say that another winter like last winter would bring serious problems. This has been spoken of all over the country, but I do not think that Alabama is in a particularly difficult position with respect to that.
He does, so I assume that the letters that you receive are from customers of the cities or customers of the cooperatives that are involved.
That's right, and that was going to be my next question. While you have a formula
George, I'd estimate right now there's somewhere between 10 and 15,000 behind the number of sales we had this time last year.
Do you sense any reason why there might be this lag?
Well, There are a couple of reasons. One thing, we suspect that there is some resentment to putting this 78 sticker onto this tag is one reason. Another, I think I have heard some people say that there's a misconception that some people believe that this is a 5-year tag and they don't need to do anything for 5 more years, so, or be 4 more years. But hopefully that's just only a few people that believe that. That's the tag for this year, and it goes on this corner right here. But for the last week, anybody could come in at any time and wouldn't have had to wait about 4 or 5 minutes. And we're afraid that if people don't come in, that a lot of people in Montgomery County are going to be inconvenienced by a long line, and I would like to see them come in as soon as possible so they wouldn't be inconvenienced.
The little decal that's going on the 5-year license plate is small. Are you having any problems with people losing them?
Yes, we are. We've had a few people that lose them in the hallway, and if you have lost, the people lost them, we might have it pinned up back here, and if you would give us a call, we'll be glad to check it, and if we have it, well, we'll mail it to them.
All right, if I lose it and I have no way to find it, what do I have to do?
If you lose it, then it has to be handled just like a lost tag, and unfortunately, it's going to cost you $3, and there is some inconvenience because you have to fill out an application here, and that has to go to the state to get a new replacement.
How many days do I have left to buy my tag?
You have 19 more working days to buy your tag.
The budget, as was the case last year, is being submitted with 2 levels. One to continue our operations at their current level of operation, and the other is with some increase in program. For the continuation at current level, we have submitted a budget which envisions a $19 million increase over the current year. And the basis for the $19 million, of that 53%, or something more than $10 million, would be involved in mandated salary increases and fringe benefits for our employees. Something in the neighborhood of 25-26%, or again $5 or $6 million, would be involved in increase in community level programs and not in our institutions, which leaves us with around $4 million to help meet the inflationary factors in drugs, medicines, utilities, and foods in our institutions. That would be the basis for our increased request to the legislature.
Yes, that's not true. Last night, a guy was down here, and we was drinking, and I think he got the idea from that, and he was saying something about the Phillies, and I think he called in and said he signed with the Phillies.
Have you been contacted by any teams?
Well, yes, a few teams been talking to me. Yesterday, I announced my free agency, and the only team I've been really talking to was the White Sox. But now any team can talk to me, but they cannot discuss money.
Any teams that you'd prefer?
Well, yes, there's a few, but, I really not calling names because, I don't know where I'm going to go. So, right now I'm going to just, talk to any team that, call.
Yeah, but the White Sox are still a possibility.
Yes, the White Sox, they've been making me offers, and, they've been going up every time they call in. So I hope, I'll be with them next year.
Okay. What will it take to keep Oscar Gamble in Chicago?
Well, it's a money thing, and, I was trying to get a long-term contract, and they didn't come up on the years. I think they offered me a 5-year. The last offer they made, so maybe they'll come up on the money.
But have you enjoyed playing in Chicago?
Yes, I enjoyed this season. I had a good year, I think, and I needed to have a good year because I was playing marching out, and I went out, I hit 31 home runs, and I was very happy with my performance.
when it hits 40? I'll tell you when. Why don't you pull out now? Go ahead. You got the whole picture? Okay, just hold it there for. Hold it there for a minute. I'll tell you when to stop.
I would say that it occurred because people were genuinely interested in the establishment of a minority bank, especially in this part of the country. They wanted to see a bank in their community that would offer them some of the same benefits as the banks downtown. They were interested in it being controlled by minorities, and many of them were simply looking for a good place to put their monies.
Will the investors get all of or parts of their money back?
I can't say whether they will or won't. That will depend upon developments in the future.
Have you been able to determine what happened to the investors' money?
I can't comment on that.
All right, can we ask you then, will this be part of your case against Mr. Gray?
Will what be part of my case?
What happened to the funds?
Well, of course, since the Alabama Securities Commission is working in conjunction with the Attorney General's office, our ultimate objective is to satisfy ourselves that the public's money has been protected. So the ultimate question is, in fact, whether or not the funds have been invested and properly used. He has a lot of dreams that I'm afraid aren't working.
When it hits 40? I'll tell you when.
You have one person who fill out a card that did not
No, I don't, because I don't expect the other union to give up easy. I expect them to still be down there trying to hold on, but for 5 or 6 years they haven't done anything, so I don't think it'll be any problem in organizing this new union. I really don't.
You folks, the union, what it takes to do this. Again, this is step one, the God. Step two now is the Constitution.
Well, it's difficult to give you an exact figure on attendance, but somewhere in the vicinity of 220, 230,000. We haven't been able to do all the counting yet, George. So we don't know exactly how much money will go back into charity. As you know, this fair is owned by the Kiwanis Club of Montgomery, and they control the charitable donations from the proceeds of the fair. We hope it's a sizable sum this year because we did have such record crowds and attendance at the fair.
Your money does go to charities. To what charities and to what extent?
Over the years, it has gone to so many different charities in Montgomery. It's been over in charitable donations and in prize awards from the fair. It's over $1 million since the fair was organized by the Kiwanis Club. Most recently, it's gone to the Senior Citizen Services Center to buy them a house, goes to Camp Kiwanis, Girl Scout camp, goes to Boys Clubs. The Kiwanis Club determines each 6 months exactly how to distribute the funds, and they screen each activity for its worthiness. And one year it might be a sizable sum to group homes. It was a few years ago when the group homes were first getting started, and it has to be a worthwhile charitable cause for them to consider it, of course. And that's why we say the fair here is such an unusual fair, because it's not a fair that's a profit fair. All the money goes to charity, and so when you come to the fair each year here, you're really making a donation back into Montgomery and for the good of Montgomery.
Placed on the docket. Mr. Westfall, it will be placed on the docket for action next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
647-77, overgrown property at the east side of Brewer and south of...
Chairman, I move we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Got a motion second to adopt the resolution. Any discussion on the motion to adopt? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand.
Unanimous.
Next item, you probably have seen yesterday's paper where the county commission sees fit to go along with it, and I'm going to strongly recommend it to the council. Tremendous improvement in our library capability to move.
Which states that without narrow, objective, and definite standards to guide the...
It comes out of computer, basically, and it's got to be double-checked. These are the first things. So this is no announcement that you do the excuse me, Urban Development Action Grant Program any deeper would just confuse, because we, yes, but not well. They won't qualify, because when they go take vacation, we rework them. These discretionary funds are those for the communities under 50,000. As you know, more cities will be funded under that in the future because of the phase out of it. Still, it's the discretionary money, but there's a label to it now. And
in talking about the Urban Development Action Grant Program, it's a new program. HUD has a limited amount of monies for it, and it's to help cities who are economically and physically distressed in really critical condition. And we want to see the money immediately put to work. So we're asking that cities that apply for it have a proposition that has a firm commitment of private resources and public monies, and where the need for the federal dollar is to put it over the top and make it go. We're not interested in paying for any planning costs or anything of that nature. We want something that's going to go immediately and have an impact on the economy of that community right away. So we're looking for where there's private enterprise committed to carrying out the program, but where it's not quite possible without some federal assistance.
Well, Section 38-3, subsection E of the section of the City Code that deals with such applications requires that those who make an application submit to us a statement saying what they're going to do with the funds in the City of Montgomery. This particular applicant has refused to supply any information at all as to what they're going to do with the funds in Montgomery, and in fact says that they will take the money and leave Montgomery and have no intention of serving anybody in Montgomery. On the basis of that, I denied the request.
Well, at last night's City Council meeting, the representative brought up some, quote, precedents, legal precedents. How does that concern you?
Doesn't concern me in the least. I'm sworn to uphold the laws of the City of Montgomery, and while that is academic and interesting, we're not in Vermont, or we're not in Massachusetts, or wherever it was that he was quoting cases from. And I'm perfectly willing for him to appeal to the City Council, and if they should decide to overrule me, that's fine. If he wants to go up to the courthouse and get a court order to tell me to let him to have the permit to solicit funds, that's fine. I'm perfectly willing to abide by that. In the meantime, the City Code is clear on the subject, in my opinion, and he has not provided us the information that the law requires, and I'll stand on that.
Does this action at all have anything to do with the controversial background of this organization?
Well, I have my personal feeling against the Moonies, which is the street name for this organization, but I wouldn't let my personal feelings apply in this matter. While I wouldn't contribute to their organization and wouldn't have anything to do with their organization, if he complies with the law, I will issue him a solicitation permit.